All right, chemistry kids, here we go. Second part of Unit 4. It's really about naming and writing compounds and formulas that atoms make. All right, so here's the second part of Unit 4, and we're really going to get to the basics of naming and writing formulas on the periodic table. So make sure you have your periodic table handy, and hopefully this helps out. So, the basics. Speaking chemistry, because really chemistry has kind of its own language, right? And it's really based off of Latin. So hopefully it makes a little bit of sense when we get through this. So the basics. So when we're writing formulas, all right, depending on the element, an atom will lose or gain electrons to share to make a formula. Okay. So remember, when they lose or gain electrons, this is when they make a charge or they make an ion, and they're going to make a cation or anion. All right. So when we're writing formulas, metals are listed first. Metals are usually first in the formula, or the positive ion, whichever one, so sometimes we have two nonmetals that go together. And second, it's usually going to be your nonmetal or your negative ion. Okay, otherwise known as your anion, positive is your cation. So here's really the basic, what goes on. All right, so what goes on here is calcium can form a +2 charge because normally it wants to lose those 2 valence electrons that it has. Chlorine has 7 valence electrons, okay, because it's in group 7. It's going to gain an electron. All right, so first thing you got to do is find the charges or the oxidation numbers, whatever you want to call them. So first thing, find charge of just a lone element or just a lone element. Find charge. Otherwise, it's called the oxidation number. All right. First thing you do is find the charge. And usually you can find that on the periodic table, or we're going to get into where it is on the periodic table. You notice these +1s and +2s. Those are going to help you with the ions. Or we're going to get, if you open up your periodic table, we have a list of things that you can use. So you don't need to memorize these, you just know where to find them. All right, and they'll have all different charges that go with it. So make sure you use both of them. Next thing you do is you drop the charges. All right, so first thing, find the charge. Second thing, drop the charges. Notice the only thing that happened here is no positive, negative, just numbers. Don't worry about the positive, negative in this. All right. Third thing, swap. Okay. Swap the numbers. Swap your numbers. All right. And this is where I'll say drop and swap. Find the charges, drop the positive, negative signs, swap the numbers. So really what happened here is this 1 goes down here, and this 2 goes down here. Notice you don't have to write 1s. 1s are assumed, so you could write a 1 here. If it helps you, do it. If you don't, just realize that there is a 1 there, and the 2's out here. And that's it. There's my formula, CaCl2. 1 atom of calcium, 2 atoms of chlorine. All right? So basically find your charges, drop and swap. And metals are usually going to be written first. For example here, calcium is written first, or the positive ion is going to be first. And then your nonmetal or your negative ion is going to be written second in the formula. That's it. Those are the basics. Don't make it any harder than what it is. All right? It's simple. Drop and swap. Find the charges. Drop charges. Swap the numbers. All right? When we're getting through this stuff, they're going to use prefixes. All right? So the prefixes that we are talking about that you're going to need to know, all right? And these are Greek prefixes. 1 is mono. Okay, 2 is di. 3 is tri, 4 is tetra, 5 is penta, 6 is an X, it's sex. No, it's not. Hex, sorry. It's hexa. Jeez, what I was thinking about. 7 is hepta, 8 is octa, 9 is nano, and 10 is deca. And half is semi. Think of like a semi. Okay, it's because half a ton or half of a normal truck, something like that, semi-truck. All right, so you're gonna need to know these prefixes only when you have just non-metals, okay? Only when you have non-metals. I forgot the Y. I'll get my spelling down eventually. So only when you have non-metals are you going to use these. Just non-metals, okay? And we'll walk you through a couple to see if hopefully it makes a little bit of sense. All right, so here we go. Let's try a couple of these on the bottom. All right, iron 2 chloride. Now, this 2 tells you the charge of iron. Now, you're going to see Roman numerals when you have a transition metal. So if you look at iron, iron's in this D block. Those are transition metals. They need to have a Roman numeral with them because their charges can vary. So iron can actually be a +2, a +3, depending on what's going on and what it's bonding with. So this 2 tells you my charge of iron. So that's my +2. Chloride, okay, these things are always going to end in IDE. It's just chlorine. It's nothing else. It's just a way of ending it. All right. So chloride is actually chlorine. And I know chlorine's charge by looking at the periodic table. Well, it's in this group. It's always going to make a -1 because it already has 7 valence electrons. So chlorine's a -1. All right. So I know my formula is going to be Fe because that's my symbol for iron. Chlorine's going to be Cl. Drop and swap. Drop the charges. And then swap the numbers. So it's going to be FeCl2. There it is. There's your first one. Now let's work with the same transition metal here. Now iron's a 3 charge. So that means iron's a +3. Okay, so I know iron's a +3 because this Roman numeral tells you the charge. Sulfate is not on the periodic table. Sulfate is a polyatomic ion, which basically means that, here's my list of polyatomic ions. A polyatomic ion basically says that you have more than one atom together that has a charge. All right, so sulfate, down here, sulfate, here it is, SO4, 2 negative. All right, so this is SO4, 2 negative. Now this 4, once you have it, this SO4, it doesn't change. So this 4 never leaves, okay, never changes. The only thing you change are the charges. So it's a 2 negative charge or a -2, drop and swap. So it's going to be Fe, and that 2 comes from there. So drop the charges, so the 2 goes over here, and then I need the SO4s. And because I have 3 SO4s, I go like that. It distributes. All right, so what this is saying is that I have 2 irons, and I have 3 sulfate ions, or you could look at it like this, 3 sulfurs and 12 oxygens because you multiply. It's like distributing in math. All right, so don't get confused when you have a sulfate there. Let's go with another one, calcium nitrate. Calcium is not a transition metal, so it doesn't need a Roman numeral. All right, so calcium, I know it's Ca by looking at the periodic table, so make sure you guys are looking at the periodic table when I go through this stuff. Calcium's in the second group, so that means it's going to make a +2. Nitrates on the back, or in the polyatomic ion list, right here, nitrate, NO3, negative charge. That negative means -1. So I know nitrate's an NO3 with a -1. Drop and swap. Calcium, and then NO3 stays, and I want 2 of those, so I put parentheses and say 2. There's my formula. All right. Lithium fluoride, not a transition metal, doesn't need Roman numerals. Lithium is part of the first group, so it's a +1. Fluorine's a negative charge because it's part of the 7th group, or the halogens. So you just drop and swap, LiF. You don't have to write the ones if you don't want to. You can if you do. I don't. And then this one's just specifically for transition metals, the D block. This one is specifically for your S block metals. Now, what if we have 2 non-metals? And here's where the prefixes, remember the prefixes? This is where the prefixes come into play. The prefixes tell you how many you have already. Dihydrogen, that means I have 2 hydrogens, so I write H2. Monoxide, mon means 1. So that means I have O1, H2O, which is another fancy name for water. You always have a prefix You won't have a prefix if there's just one in the first one, but you'll always have a prefix if there's two or more. So anything di, tri, tetra, then you'll see a prefix in the first one. But if you notice over here, carbon, there's no prefix with it. That means you just have one. So you'd write C, and then the tetra tells me I have 4 chlorides. Cl4, CCl4. All right? And there's your basics on how to do writing formulas. So you got things you have to look for. Transition metals have Roman numerals, which are going to tell you the charge. All right? Everything else you just look up on your periodic table or your polyatomic ion list. Make sure you know your prefixes for your Roman numerals for when you do just nonmetals. Prefixes no other time. All right? So drop and swap. So find the charges, drop and swap, and then just put them as subscripts, and you should be good. Hopefully this video helped out with writing formulas. This is just a basic one. We'll probably get into more detail in class. Have a good one.